What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Well, welcome me back, right? I'm back. I'm here. It's been a second since I've been here, so honestly, no excuse. I felt like it wasn't much for me to talk about. It wasn't much for me to record. It wasn't much for me to kind of like get on here. My creative mind was just kind of like shot for a second. You actually see me in my pajamas. Look, I mean, I got up a little today. I brushed my teeth, did my little lashes and my brows a little bit. I don't know why. I just felt like coming on here and just giving you guys an update. So first of all, if you do not know, my husband and I started a YouTube channel, a couples channel, about 2 months ago. And it really originated from what we're calling our faith haul. And essentially what that means is that, God had told us over the summer that we would be moving from Michigan to Texas. And he kind of like revealed that to us. And so we vlogged the first probably like week or so of that trip and what that looked like. But that is there if you guys are interested in our couples channel and our faith haul and everything that went down from the day we left Michigan up until when things started to hit the fan. You are more than welcome to go ahead and click the link down in the description below so you can stay updated with everything on our faith haul and everything Armani and Gwen. Armani is my husband's name. And we will be picking that back up. However, we have decided that since we're not really settled yet in our own space, we are going to hold off on some of those videos as far as the faith haul go. We do have couples challenges and things. I'm not sure if we're going to get into that right now. He works, so he works during the day, and I mean, I'm here, nothing else to do, so I mean, I might as well just like make use of my time. And so that's what I wanted to do too. It's just kind of like, even though we're not going to be over on that channel for a second, I do want to provide just different things here for you guys. I think it's really, really important. I think a part of the reason why God kind of had me also making sure that we recorded this journey is because I think it will be helpful. I think it's helpful when people see trial, tribulation, they see vulnerability behind following God, behind following Jesus, behind being obedient. Because I think one common misconception that a lot of people have is that when you're obedient, right, when it comes from God, it's gonna come easy. It's all gonna make sense. Like when God tells you to do something, when you're being obedient, it's all gonna make sense. And that's not it. Like, obedience is hard. Obedience is hard. I did such a big thing, leaving Michigan, leaving my family behind, leaving my son behind. It's really been eating me up. But it's just like from that, it ain't been easy. Like, and I'm just being completely honest. Again, there's definitely some different videos over on our couples channel where you can look at and just kind of like see some of the things that we've had to endure and go through. But obedience is not easy, and you're not going to step into like the day after you're obedient, like, okay, I did this, God, now what? And then everything is just going to fall into your lap and everything is just going to make sense and everything. No, like we still had to put in so much work and we're still not settled. So it's just like, you never know what God is going to do in you, through you, in your act of obedience. And I think with that common misconception that obedience is easy, and that if God really said it, then it's going to be smooth for you. It's going to be easy. It's not going to come with hiccups. That's not true. And sometimes it's actually very much the opposite, because the closer you are to walking in your purpose, the closer you are to following God, is the more the enemy will try to come in and deter you, will try to come in and convince you that what you've done, that act of obedience, was done in vain. So the enemy is going to try to do whatever it can to get you to not trust in God, when trust is literally the whole thing that even got me here to this moment right now. It's because I decided to trust God. And it's been so hard to the point where I would have days, I'm much better now, but I would have days where it was like, God, take me home. Take me back to Michigan. I don't know if I want this anymore. I don't even care. I'd much rather be living in Michigan under the circumstances that we were living in than having to move. I gave up everything. And so for me to come out here thousands of miles away and I have nothing to my name, that's crazy. I honestly feel like in this entire shift, in this entire act of me being obedient, more things have been stripped than it's been given. More things have been stripped from me than being given. And when I say it's just like hit after hit after hit after hit, like what I do to deserve. Like it's been days that felt like that. Like what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to deserve the stripping? What did I do? But I think what has truly kept me is the fact that, you know, before I even came down here, my husband and I, you know, we prayed and we prayed and we prayed because it was such a big thing for us to do. And we prayed and we prayed and we prayed and we're like, well, God, if you get us down to Texas and you get us there safely, then we know it's for you. We know this is from you. We know that this is an act of obedience, and we know that this is where you're calling us to be in this season. Like, if this move is meant for us, then without a doubt, get us down there safely. No accidents, no almost accidents, just a smooth car ride, like everything, get us down there smoothly. And it did, and he did. He got us down here smoothly. So I think that has definitely been one thing that's been keeping me going, is just going back to the original prayer. Like, if you got me down here to begin with, I'm going to know and know and know for sure that you called us down here. And I think the thing in that was that I kept wavering. Like, sure, things were being stripped. Sure, things were happening that would just kind of like put a bump in the road. I felt, you know, every which way, but God was still like, I hear you, I see you, and I'm answering. And my easy don't look like God's easy. That's what I have to realize. My easy doesn't look like God's easy. Where I'm thinking, okay, well, if we just had this, if we just had this, if we just had this, this would be easy. But God is like, I love you so much, you don't even have to do a lot of work for me to even do for you. And I just feel that, because y'all, when I say, I'm gonna just be transparent, you know, but there was one night where, and now my husband and I had already slept in the car for one night. And that was really only because we had an issue with transferring the money over onto the card and blah, blah, blah. And the card wasn't working, but we had the money and blah, blah, blah. We were so frustrated that day, we couldn't even possibly think straight. So it was just like, I'm out of ideas. I don't know what else to do. But we did sleep in the car that night, and we hadn't slept in the car the entire time. And after that moment, you know, we were talking to each other like, no, this is the last time we will ever be sleeping in your car, you know, last time, right? But we fast forward a few weeks, and now we're in another situation where now I can't do DoorDash. And again, DoorDash was, I mean, I didn't mention it here, but DoorDash was our biggest way of making any money to afford a night stay over in the extended hotel, because that's where we were. And so that night, that day, really, we had already knew we did not have the money for the hotel. We did not have the money to stay another night. And this was at the end of September. And so we just kind of like already had it up in our heads that we would be sleeping in the car. Like, we can't keep asking people for money. We can't, at this point, we just gonna have to trust God. And if we said, you know, we wouldn't be in a car again, then I'm gonna just trust God that we ain't gonna be sleeping in a car again. And we went about that day, we did our thing. I mean, our phones was off. So when I say, y'all, like, it really has been taxing. It really has been taxing. And it's been a little bit scary too to share some of these parts, because it's just like so vulnerable, right? It's just so real, raw, and relatable. But no, like, you know, so we went about it and we just kind of like chilled out for the day. We went to the park, we went here, we're, you know, by buildings, by hotels, making sure we can have some type of access to the internet, and I feel myself like trying to hold back, like getting emotional, because if I'm being quite honest with you, y'all, September was very traumatizing for me. Like, it was very traumatizing for me. And I told that to God like so many times, like, I understand that what you're doing like has deeper meaning to it, but you're low-key traumatizing me with this situation, and it's making me go into a space where it's like, if it comes to me have to tell anybody about obedience, baby, I'm gonna warn them. Baby, I'm gonna tell them, because this is not a space that anybody wants to be in. But September was very, very traumatizing for me. But we kind of like, you know, that day we just let things kind of like be. Again, finding somewhere to kind of like get a hold of some Wi-Fi and everything. And we were cool. Like it was probably like 8:30 at night. So we're about to get ready to go to bed. We're watching our last little shows or whatever before we like set up the back of the car. And I'm gonna talk about that too, because God actually did come through. Like it wasn't just all bad. But it was, like I said, it's been more stripping than giving. Yeah, that night we're in the car, we're watching our little shows or whatever, and I get a text from my friend, and she says, "Hey, you know, did you ever figure out like a living situation for tonight?" And I told her, you know, as humble as possible, y'all. And I was just like, honestly, no. But it's okay. We just gonna rock it out in the car for now. And she texted me back and she said, "How much is the room?" I told her, and she sent me the money for that night. And not just that, she paid for another night. And after that night, it was like 2 days away. She said that October 1st, because she lives down here, she said that October 1st that we could, and I'm about to get emotional because people don't do this, you know, but she said that, you know, we could stay in her home until she returns. And she said we could stay in her home. And so we had 2 days until we made it, until the 1st came, so we could be able to come stay here. And we were 1 day away, and we didn't have it to stay somewhere that night. And God made it so that way we can actually move in that day instead of the 1st. So it was the day before. When I say September really traumatized me, it really traumatized me. I'm still in waiting. Still in waiting for our own place. It's been difficult, especially with things inaccurately reporting over on our credit. That's just been like a really, really, really big holdup. But God is good because He saw the stress. He saw what it was doing to us. He saw. And granted, we still had to go through it. We still had to endure it. Like, when God is trying to change you, when you are allowing God to change you, because it's not about God changing you, it's about you legit like allowing it. And I think that was something I didn't quite understand too. I'm not sure if I knew the extent to allowing God to like do things in my life, if I would have chose the same path. I'm just being honest. I'm just being real. But God is good. And it is still hard to like, okay, God, like, what are you doing? And still trust in him despite like the trials, despite the tribulations. But God has given me peace. Because again, September was really, really hard. September was a very, very hard month. It was a stressful month. I had a headache every single day in September. And surely God was still like answering prayers, but he wasn't answering them how I wanted him to answer them. It was just like he was holding me back. And like that's what it felt like, more so that God was actually holding me back, not necessarily pushing me into anything. But like I said, you know, it comes with you allowing God to do the work in you. And when you allow God to do the work in you, when I say he's going to come in and clean it up, and it's gonna hurt, it's gonna be uncomfortable. This was like the first time like I feel I have completely given God my yes, and not just a yes in this area, not just a yes in this area, not just a yes in this area, but it was legit like, God, I don't care. Do whatever you want in my life. I give it all to you. I don't want to be delayed anymore. I don't want to step into stuff that's not mine. I want to step into everything that you have that's for me. I want those connected to me to be connected to it as well, be connected to the blessing as well. Because God has shown me, I'm not going to go into detail about some of the things that God has shown me, but God has shown me my future. He has shown me what I'm going to become, what I'm going to do. He has shown me the great lengths that he will take me to to achieve these things. And that makes me happy. That makes me proud. That makes me want to continue this, because I know what God is showing me. It has been confirmed so many times, and I don't want to mishandle that. I want to reach that because I feel for God's children. I feel for the spaces that we are in, and I want to be positioned to help others. I want to be positioned to help others. And so I'm allowing God to do what he will. And I think I finally got into a place where I was just living so stagnant that I needed change. I needed something new. I needed God to show up miraculously for me. And in order for him to do that, he had to do something miraculous in my life, which was this move. And which was also something that I ended up coming to the realization of too. It's just like, well, one thing that God had told me, he said, because I was just like down and out this day, and I was emotional and in my feels, and you know, I was crying and praying out. And one thing God had told me was that I had such a big act of obedience. So surely I'm gonna get a big reward. And it just sticks with me, because God has got to repay us to the level at which we sacrifice. And when I say I left our home and we sold everything, the TVs, I mean 58-inch TV, 50-inch TV, king size bed, mattress, paid for on our own, got rid of all of it. No hesitation either, because I was just so motivated and just like, I'm doing something for God. I'm doing something for Jesus, and this is what he wants me to do. If this is what he wants me to give up, there it goes. You can have it. You can have it. Gave away a lot of things. Big sectional, king size bed, the frame. Gave it away. Didn't even charge. Gave it away. Because of just how good God is. And again, like, So one of the things that did come, right? Because I know this seems like sad and all that other stuff, and I know some people are probably like, "Dang, do I really want to be obedient?" Listen, our journeys are different. There were some things that I had to learn and go through that God had to take me through, and my husband as well, because this was not just for me. It was about us, and together we had to create order. We needed order in our house. We needed order in our marriage and our union. We needed order so that way when we did move into the new, we moved into the new with better mindsets. We moved into the new with fresher mindsets. We moved into the new as adults. And I'm just saying that because it didn't feel like that. Like, even though we married, we got these, we have this child and we have these careers, it didn't really, we still weren't living like adults. Like, we still had some very childhood and childlike and college ways that we still needed to get out of, and we haven't been able to do that in Detroit. So God had to get us uncomfortable. So again, our stories are different. Your journey may be completely different. But what I do know is that with obedience does not always come ease. With obedience is going to take some stripping. It's going to take, especially when you're giving God your yes, especially when you're telling God, God, have your way in my life. Place me in the rooms I need to be placed in. Clean up this for me. Clean up my heart. Do this. Transition me. Like, you ask God these questions, or in these things, you ask him to do these things for you. And we be thinking that it's just so harmless, right? No. If that's what you're praying for and your heart is tapped into that, I guarantee you, God will begin to move, and he will move just like that. Just like that, he will move. So, but again, something good that did come out, again, is that every single turn when something happened and I felt like it was going to get the best of me, every single chance, God supplied the need. Whether it was making sure we slept somewhere that night, we always had food, we always had a bed, we always had hot water. Those were three things that we absolutely knew in our hearts that's what God can supply us with, and that's what he did every single time. And when I say it was things that was like literally getting away, my car got repossessed, I got my ability to do DoorDash was kind of taken away from me, so I couldn't even do that anymore. And it was really just because of something that happened in the past, which is not really that big of a deal because I had got my license reinstated, but they didn't, it is what it is, God's timing. And at that time, he needed me to have a break. But anywho, after all of this stuff had happened, and just to talk about the car repossession thing, because again, this is an area too that God also restored. Like, yeah, he took away, but God saw like the burden that the car was on me in general. The car was a burden. We had got into a season where, last year, my husband actually was not working for half of the year. So a lot of the weight did fall over on me, and it was just, I'm not gonna say it was a new space to navigate because we had been in this space before, but this time we actually like made the decision together that he would leave that job. Because again, I mean, I'm all for working, right, and doing what you gotta do, but I also got a little bit of sense in that, ain't nobody gonna be working for nobody that don't appreciate us. And what's the point of selling our souls to these companies when they could care less about us too? So no, I've always been a big advocate on, if it's not working out for you, leave. Now, sometimes God wants us to stay in these places so that way we can do better and grow in them. But there just comes a time where it's just like things just keep hitting the fan, just boom, 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 just thing after thing, thing after thing, thing after thing. You can't get no peace in this thing. That's not of God. No peace is not of God. So we did make that joint decision that he would quit that job, which also worked because, I was working, he needed to be home with our son and things like that. So like it literally all worked how it needed to work out. But again, so we had got into that situation, and so we ended up getting behind. Like we had to enter into a space where it was just like, okay, well, what bill is more important? What bill is more important? What bill is more important? And a lot of the times the car note kind of like came last because it just did. With the money that we had and what we could do, it just came last over groceries and rent and making sure our son had everything he needed. So the car note just came, was just on the back burner. And so it was a very, very, very big burden. We came out here with the expectation that it was going to get towed at some point. But we also was a little bit naive. Like, dang, well, you know, we are in Texas. It's a whole new state. Maybe they're not gonna find a car. Maybe blah, 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 right? Yeah, no, one morning we got up. We went to go to, I was about to take my husband to work. We walked out there and the car was gone. And I looked and I laughed and I walked right back inside and I laid down because like at that point there's nothing I could do, and I was so used to stuff going wrong that it was like, okay, well, what now? What next? What next? I mean, we flat tire here, flat tire. Mind you, our only way of making any money at the time was DoorDash to afford a place to stay every single night. Like we was literally paying for a night to stay every single day. And that was probably about $70 to $90 that we outside sun up to sundown trying to make this money or whatever, right? So the car gets repoed, and now I'm like, okay, how are we gonna afford this night? Luckily, my husband's job have like this little program, this app or whatever that every day you work, you clock in, do all the stuff that you need, you can actually get a portion of your check. And so that actually sustained us for quite some time. But I say all of this to say, because my demeanor when the car was repossessed was totally like, it's in God's hands. Don't get me wrong, that day I cried. I did. But that next day, you could see me going outside across the way, across the parking lot to this parking structure. And at the top, it was like this, you know, it was open. I went right up there by myself and I just started praising it, and I just started worshiping God, and I just started talking to him, and I just started, you know, thanking him for keeping us safe, for keeping us protected. You know, I realized that my car at the time was a burden, and I thank God for releasing it, because it just felt like pressure was lifted off of me. Like, I'm not even going to be mad at this because I see how you're using this to help me, to help set me up. And I think that's another thing too that we have to stop doing. We have to stop thinking that when bad things are happening, or when chaos is coming, or when destruction is coming, right, or something that feels like it of the sort, right? Because we know the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So we know that that's what the enemy does. But we have to stop thinking of it as, okay, this is just something the enemy just wants to do. Like, no. God, the enemy still has to operate on God's timing. Still. The enemy still has to operate on God's word. So, because God he's the creator of evil and good. It wasn't until Eve bit the apple that evil was introduced to the people. So if the evil still have to operate on God's timing, we still have to understand from some type of perspective, Lord, what are you trying to show me through this? How are you trying to use this to help me? How are you trying to use this to set me up? And so that's where I was with it. God was trying to set me up. And so when I had changed my demeanor about the car and about what was going on, right? And I had told God, I said, you know, I'm gonna call them. If it's over a certain amount, then we can't get the car out. And that just means we're just gonna be without a car. But God knew we needed a car because my husband needs to go to work. And luckily where we were staying and his job was literally like, it was probably like a 15-minute walk. So he was able to walk back and forth to work for probably about a week. And that next week, after the car was towed, we had called up there to see how much my car was to get it out. It was way too much. So we just knew we had to take the L over on that car. And when we went to go pick all of our stuff up, because we had got a rental, I had to get a rental so we could actually go get all of our belongings out of our car because everything was in the car. We had not gotten storage yet. So we had to go there, get everything up out of the car. And it was like as soon as I got there. And so just peep this out, like the provision didn't come beforehand. The provision and the vision came at the moment, at the moment, at the moment. So I'm just so happy about like how God solved this. But as we're going through this and, you know, we're getting all this stuff out of the car and all of this other stuff, it just started coming to me like, Kia. Now, mind you, when we first drove to Texas, we literally crossed the threshold into Texas. All we saw were either CarMax cars and we saw a whole bunch of Kia cars. But as I'm doing all of this stuff, me and my husband were taking everything out of the car, I just hear Kia, 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 Kia. So we had already had in our mind, like, okay, well, where do we want to go? Like, because we're going to have to try at least, just because we need a car. Like, we need a vehicle, and we not just going to be out here somewhere stuck. We can't do that. So God was like, Kia, Kia, Kia. So I look up, I'm checking out the closest Kia to us, an 8-minute drive. And I'm only sharing this part because God speaks to us in numbers too, y'all. He will speak to you in numbers. If you see something repeatedly, this means something. The number means something. Sometimes he'll use it and take you to a scripture. Sometimes he'll use it and just give it to you for what it is. The number 8 represents new beginnings. New beginnings. It's the number of infinity. It's new beginnings. You're coming into your new. And so I had already knew that. So when I saw it was 8 minutes away, I'm like, okay, God, I'ma encourage you real quick. Okay. So we go to the Kia dealership. Actually, it's called Clay Cooley. So if you are in the Texas, Irving, Plano area, then definitely I would suggest to hit up Clay Cooley. His name is Stefan, the guy that we worked with. And please let him know that I led you there, Gwen Maxey and Armani Maxey. But anywho, no, he was like he was definitely God sent. We got there, we're getting to talk to him a little bit and stuff. He's asking us questions. We find out that he actually just moved to Texas as well from somewhere up north too. I think it was Chicago. So he actually just moved to Texas as well. So we just kind of like shared some things that that we've been liking about it and things like that. And before he even ran our credit, we were filling out not just like the application, but like we were filling out things. We were looking at cars. We test drove 2 cars before they even looked up our credit and everything, y'all. Like legit. We did not have the income. The only thing that we had to show for it was the DoorDash stubs that I had from doing DoorDash. And we had my husband's, what is it called? Y'all, what is it called? The paper thing, and just showing that you are working, your offer letter. So my husband had the offer letter, we had that, y'all, and that's all they had. That's all they had from us. And in my heart, we wasn't like, okay, this isn't ours. Like, we wasn't feeling defeated or anything. We just went and no expectation at all. Just like, hey, we gonna go, we gonna try. I feel led to go to Kia, let's go. And we'll just see what happens, right? And so before we even get to doing anything, they put us in 2 different cars. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of background, I'm familiar with Kia. I actually had one of my first cars was a Kia. Actually, it was my second car, I believe. I had a Kia Forte. But anywho, moving along, probably in June, sometime in June or May, I actually ended up going to a Kia dealership because they were trying to trade my car in. Didn't end up working out, but now I see that God sent me there so I could see the car that I wanted. So I had went there to the dealership or whatever, and so I had picked out this. I knew I couldn't get the trade-in, but I'm like, what, my next car is gonna be a Kia Sorento. It's gonna be a Kia Sorento. It was either between the Kia Sorento or the Kia Sportage, right? Now, mind you, the Kia Sorento I saw that was there, it was like, it was all black, but it was just like your standard SUV. Like, it still had your 2 rows and your big trunk, right? Baby. So we get to this Kia dealership, right? And so the first car that he puts us in, I don't even remember what the first car was, but it was not a Kia. It was like a Chevy, I think it was Chevy or Hyundai, one of them. So we thought it was cool, whatever. We actually really did like it. It had the nice little sunroof and everything. But features like that, it's cool, but we not flashy type people. Like, we not looking for like the biggest, most luxurious, like, we not that flashy people like that. Like, it don't have to be super perfect for us at all. You know, we just knew we needed something to sustain us right now, get us back and forth to work, and plus Dean is gonna come down here at some point, so we're gonna need a car. And so I was just like, you know, what's the second car? Because this was just the first one, and my husband was like, he was almost like really, really into it, right? But I'm like, you know, what was the second car you wanted to put us in? Because it was nice. He said, oh, it's a Kia Sorento. You mean to tell me the car that I just picked out a few months ago is the same car that he was, because they only showed us two. We only test drove two of the cars. And so I'm like, I said, okay, come on, let's go ahead and get in the Kia Sorento, right? So we get in the car. Y'all, when I say the seats are super freaking comfortable, like we literally sat in the seats and it's like the seat hugs you. Like, that's legit how the seats feel. And I have been wanting something that feels good, because again, we were doing DoorDash a lot, and it was just like, we could not be doing DoorDash and, you know, it's messing up our backs, it's not really comfortable, blah, 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 right? So we're like, okay, we really like this car, and it was pretty big. It was all black with the black rims. It's a super nice car. We never did like a tour of it, and we never really announced it, but God, he's definitely up to something amazing here. We just didn't see it at the time. But yeah, so we got the Kia Sorento and everything, and next thing you know, they're like, all right, you know, this could be your guys's. And I must say this as well, we only had to put down $300. We only had to put down $300. I don't know if you know how big that is, but that's big. Like, people are paying $2,000-$3,000 putting down, and they got the income. We didn't have the income. We didn't have the money. But God showed out. And one thing we did not notice before we signed the papers, I don't even know how we missed it, but one thing we did not notice before we signed the papers is that this vehicle had a third row. Y'all, a third row? This is like a whole family vehicle, and that's what we wanted. Like we said, like, you know, no, we want a family vehicle that's good on safety features, and it's really like the perfect car. Like, it will tell you when, you know, if you want to switch over a lane, it will tell you like who's coming up. Like, it will warn you that somebody is coming before you even look over, like in your blind spot. It's a super, super safe car. It didn't have the roof, the sunroof, like we had liked in the other car, but everything else about it was just like A1, and we only had to put down $300 for it. So when I say God is good, when I say like when you really shift your perspective from like, oh God, like why is this happening? Or, you know, why are you letting this happen? And why can't I do this? We have to be able to change that to, God, what are you trying to teach me? What are you trying to show me through this thing? Use this to accelerate me into my next. And I don't know if that makes any sense to y'all, but when it comes from God, it's gonna come bigger and better. He's gotta upgrade you. He's gotta upgrade you. He's gotta upgrade you. So now the burden that I had in the other car, the other vehicle, now that burden is gone, and we get to start brand new, fresh, with a bigger, a better vehicle. And it made me think, like, 3 rows, we about to have kids. We about to have more kids. Like, that's legit what it feels like. Cause that's not a mistake. God is gonna supply you for what you need. We may not always see what the need is, but God knows what it is. And he gonna make sure that every single time he shows up. And that's what he did. And that is what he did. So although overall the move has been pretty big and not telling of the full goodness of God, because I do believe that there are more things that could be happening to kind of like encourage us a bit more. But I do believe that God is very intentional in the things that he's doing and the things that he is allowing. And I really am using this season as a season where it's like God is really revealing to me who is for me and who is not. He's really revealing to me who has my back and who does not. He's really revealing to me who who has the heart of Christ and who does not. And I think that that is going to be so super important for what I'm going to walk into. That's going to be so super important for what I'm going to do when I say the lender, not the borrower. The lender, not the borrower. I'm going to decree and declare that. I know what God promised me. I know what he said to me. I know what he said about me. I know what he said. I know where he said I'm going. I know the titles he's given me, even the titles that I don't have right now. I know the spaces he's going to put me in. God has literally given, and I think he's showed me so much because of how much I've had to go through. Because in no way do I want like my story, my life to be indicative of someone else's downfall or come off as, I would say, not humble. But when you're just so confident in what the Lord is doing in your life and why he's doing it, then you have got to have some type of vision that comes with that. And I'm just grateful, and I'm just patiently waiting. I'm just grateful, and I'm just patiently waiting for the promise, because it's still promised. If God said it, it's got to come to pass. Whether it's this year, next year, 10 years from now. I think that's an area that we all should increase in. Is not worrying about the timing of things, not worrying about when it's going to happen. Just know that it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So, you guys, it's been real. I really don't have much more to say. I know part of this video was like talking about why, you know, we had to move and how God showed us that. And I guess I can talk a little bit on that before I end. But again, he was showing us through numbers. So we kept seeing, he was showing us through numbers. He kept giving me Dallas, Texas repeatedly, literally like everywhere I'm looking. If I hop up online, the first thing I see is Dallas, Texas. The first thing I see is moving. The first thing I see is packed boxes. And, you know, I even asked for signs too along the way. And I was just like, God, you know, if this is something that you want us to do, I will see packed boxes. Because at the time, it wasn't something that I was seeing. Like, I kept seeing Dallas, Texas. I kept seeing moving. But I'm like, God, if this is for me, if this is what you want me to do, if this is something you want me to do now, let me see some packed boxes. And I think literally not too long after that, I hopped online. And I'm just, I think it's on YouTube. And I'm just scrolling. And I scrolled past something, but I scrolled back up just to look and see what it was. Because something had caught my eye. And in the background of the cover photo was packed boxes, moving boxes. So it was just like, yeah, no, it's time. And this is something that I can't continue to like hold off on, because I do feel like if I hold off on it, I'm not going to get to where God is trying to get me to. And Detroit was just like holding me back, and just to give like a little bit of insight. And also like our place was falling apart. Our place was falling apart, like literally month after month after month, something different was happening. Our living room ceiling was like super, super close to being caved in. I actually had a dream when we first moved into that place that the ceiling fell. And so when we approached the summer and this crack started to get longer and longer and longer, it started reminding me of that dream. Like, if I stay here any longer, this ceiling is gonna fall. God was trying to tell me this from the beginning. I had another dream that there was a squirrel that had got in, and it was trash everywhere. And so it was like, as the summer came closer, we start hearing more noises. We start hearing these scratches and stuff. We start, like, it's time. And it's not just time to like leave and look for another place to stay in Detroit, but it's time to make that big move. And it's time to make that big move for Christ. And that's what we had to do. That's what God was calling us to do in that season. And that's where we needed to be positioned. So it was a lot of things that was just kind of like going on over in our place that kind of like held us up, or that kind of like left us feeling defeated. It was just so much. It was so much. And maintenance was not coming. They sent people out, like, because we would try to get the things fixed, but they would send people out, and then next thing you know, they come in, they take pictures, and we don't hear from them for another month. And then another month comes, now they have to send somebody else new out to take pictures and do all this other stuff, and nothing ever happened. So it was just like we kept getting to run around with that. We was never getting anything fixed because they did not care. We had exposure to lead. We had a 1-year-old. We documented all of this stuff, but they did not care. So God made it to where we didn't have a choice but to move. So if God is speaking to you about something, I want you to check the repetition. How often are you seeing this thing? How often are you being reminded of this thing? How often do you see it? Check your repetition, because that's so super important. It really is. Check your repetition. And ask for confirmation. Don't just think you heard something from the Lord. You go do it, and then it's all types of X, Y, and Z when you didn't ask for the confirmation. You have to ask for confirmation. You have to ask for confirmation. It will come, but you gotta ask for it. You have to make sure that the decision that you are making is because of God and not your own feelings, not your own thoughts, not coming from your own experiences, but legit. So, I'm in my pajamas, y'all. I'm about to go ahead and make me some, I'm probably about to eat me some boiled eggs for breakfast. Honestly, I'm just, yeah. I might do a little bit of something, but again, you know, it is a little bit uncomfortable recording and doing things in someone else's space. So if I do show you guys anything else, I don't know, because I was just thinking about doing like reels and like morning routines and stuff like that. But I think what I'm gonna do is just stick to here. I think that I'm just gonna get on here every day, talk to you guys when my husband is at work Monday through Friday, and yeah, just kind of like bring you guys along this waiting season with us, because again, we are still waiting. We're still waiting for our home. And I'm gonna just put this out there. Can I put this out there? Yeah, I can put this out there. But I do believe that one of the things that I've been really feeling, and my mom confirmed it yesterday, is that it probably will not be, as far as a reuniting of me, my husband, and my son, it probably will not be until November. So I'm decreeing and declaring that when Thanksgiving comes and we go back down to the city to spend some time with family and enjoy the holidays, that on our way back, we can bring our son with us. That is what I'm decreeing and declaring. And I pray that there's some praying people on here and that y'all can pray the same exact thing. But I do believe God is gonna make it so. Like, this was not done in vain. He keeps reminding me that moving down here was not done in vain. It may look a little crazy right now, but he got me. He has supported me ever since making the move. And so I just pray that encourages somebody to just keep your faith. Keep your faith. Keep your faith. Keep your trust in God. Don't let it waver. You have to choose to be active in your prayer life. You have to choose to pray over stress. You have to choose to decree and declare these things come to pass over your life if you know God is calling you to something. So, thank y'all for crying with me. Thank y'all for being with me. And that is all I have for today. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.